Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? All right, my name is Susan Starr. I am your keynote presentation speaker today on a very unique and touching subject that is close to self. The title is A Unique Journey as a Surrogate Mother During My Drag Career and How It's Impacted My Own Personal Spiritual Journey. All right, yes, there we go. That's the title slide we have here. Just a quick little about myself session. So I am a freelance drag performer from Las Vegas, Nevada. Yes, Sin City, we love it. It's not really the greatest, but you know, it is what it is. So, but I am very much a freelance performer. I am not just confined to Las Vegas. I have performed everywhere from Portland to Phoenix to Denver to Cincinnati. I was part of the Dragon Spirituality Summit for the very first time in Chicago in 2022. And then I was also part of the San Francisco Summit last year, where I was doing my last surrogate pregnancy. I was about 8 months along during that summit, actually, if you were present for it. An alternative based drag performer. That's what my style very much centers around. I also channel a lot of high glamour and burlesque inspiration in my drag numbers. And if you're going to be at the evening performances tonight, you'll get to see a little bit about what my drag performing looks like and is all about. So I'll be very excited to share all of that with you. Okay. This is actually my first time ever doing like a keynote presentation like this. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I apologize if I appear a little nervous. That just trying to get over that. So be patient with me. Thank you. All right. So to start off with, what is surrogacy? Surrogacy is an arrangement where the surrogate will agree to carry and give birth to a child on behalf of another person or a couple, the intended parent or parents. There are two types of surrogacy that are basically known in how they are carried out. Traditional surrogacy is the type where the surrogate is genetically the carrier of the baby. That means that they would use her egg and the baby would be genetically related to her. Again, the traditional, that's kind of speaks for itself. It's not really, sorry, it's not really used too much that I know of nowadays, just because of the legal stipulations and obstacles that can come along with it. I'm sure some people might be familiar with it, but there have even been news articles where it's if the woman is related to the baby and then she ends up getting cold feet and says, well, I've bonded with this baby, I want to keep it now. In a court of law, they could say that because she's related to that baby, she doesn't have to give it up. And then the parents who put all that money, all that work, all that everything into it, they would have to fight tooth and nail just to get their baby that was supposed to be promised to them. So that's why that one is, it still exists that I know of. I personally don't hear about it that much, but again, there's different surrogate agencies, there's different people doing different things on their own time. So it's still out there, but it's not the known one that people would normally go for. That one would be gestational surrogacy. And that's the one that I do. That's where my agency comes in. That's the kind they go for. It's the kind they advocate for. And it's basically where you will have your surrogate, but then you will also employ a separate egg donor. You would retrieve the egg from the egg donor. That would be mixed with the sperm of a sperm donor, depending on the situation of the parents, or it could be from the intended father themselves. They will combine that to make the embryo, and then the embryo is implanted via in vitro fertilization, and that is how the surrogate will come to be with carrying the baby. Okay, some of the key aspects of surrogacy. The pros, when you look at why people might choose surrogacy, is that it completes families. There are people out there that struggle with infertility. People in the LGBTQIA plus community, this is a way for them to be able to have a baby biologically and complete their family in that kind of sense. There are certain medical conditions that would make pregnancy unsafe for people. And so this makes it easier for them to have their own family, have that feeling that, while it's not natural in a sense of like the biological way that you would create a family, you can have something similar to that through the means of surrogacy. So you can kind of feel like, you helped create your family. Surrogacy allows for genetic connections. So in gestational surrogacy, it can enable both of the parents to have that biological relationship, as stated. If it's the father's contribution into the gestational surrogacy, then that's the baby that he helped create the life for, and it feels like, is their biological genetic family, and it creates that closer bond for them. Not to dismiss adoption, I'm very much a supporter of adoption as well, but like for the people that are looking for that sentimentalness from the biological connection, doing surrogacy can create that for them and allow them to have that in their lives. Surrogacy will involve few, if any, surprises. When you go through agencies, they're kind of like the middleman in everything. They cover everything for both. So you will get contracts all set up. They will cover everything from point A to point Z. You will make sure that all the legal things are in order so that everyone knows what to expect. There's going to be no surprises, so that not only is the surrogate protected, so that she knows what she is expected to go through and what she is expecting to receive in terms of support and help. And then the parents will receive theirs to know that this is what your surrogate knows that they are expected to do of you, and you will be going home with your baby at the end of everything. So there's very much all the protection. We feel safe going into this endeavor together. Surrogacy ensures that you are involved. Like, very much. It's all about the involvement process. You want to make sure that you're involving the parents so that they can feel like, they're involved in the pregnancy because, again, they're having to create their family by non-traditional means. So by involving them in the process of the insemination, for lack of a better word, if they're involved in that, they can kind of be a part of that to feel like they were there for the baby's actual creation, born, and getting to be a part of that aspect, to see their baby brought to the world. The involvement still makes it feel like, while it's not anything traditional in the way of creating a family, that you still have that involvement and feel like you still had that very unique process with creating your family. With science and all of its great advancements nowadays, we can greatly ensure that with all the proper measures and following everything, will result in a happy, healthy baby and a happy family. With everything that the embryologists and the clinics do, there is almost always there's going to be a successful go through to term, and everything will be okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I noticed it was going out there a little bit. We'll take that one off. There you go. All right, there we go. All right, all better. All right, now we're going to talk about the putting in the work aspects of surrogacy. I don't like to use the word con. That kind of, makes it sound a little more negative. I don't want people to think of surrogacy as anything negative. Just know that, with a lot of things that we want in life, you got to put in the work. So that's how I like to show people to look at it, is if you want something, you're going to have to work for it. And these are some of the things you might have to understand and know when it comes to moving forward with that. So surrogacy can be complicated. As with everything in life, a lot of things can be very complicated and a lot of work to go through. There's going to be very complex medical procedures. Speaking as myself as a surrogate, I've had to have hysteroscopies where they examine my uterus to make sure that it is healthy and there's nothing wrong with it and that it is confirmed to be able to carry a pregnancy to term. You have to take hormonal medications that ready your body for a pregnancy artificially because you're not naturally going through the process to get pregnant. So, medication is required to make that happen. You have to have blood work done to make sure that all your hormone levels are at the right levels. You have to go through the entire process of getting pregnant through the IVF procedure. So, very complex in terms of medical. And then surrogacy laws actually do come into play a lot. And that's one thing people always really have to do their homework on when it comes to being a part of this kind of procedure in life. I remember my very first surrogacy I carried for a couple that lived in England. And I did not know all about the surrogacy laws over there. I'm not familiar with them off the top of my head, but they are very strict in a way that the family felt the need that we have to, employ someone over in the States and have our baby be born in the States because it is too complicated over here in England. So depending on where you live, you can be very much impacted by surrogacy laws, and you could have a baby still, but everything has to be kind of moved around a little bit. And then another example being my second surrogacy, the parents actually got divorced while I was pregnant. That was like, I swear, I got the call from the agency like right after my shift ended at like 6 p.m. And they're like, hey, so I just talked to so and so. And she said that her and husband are separating. And I'm like, oh, you don't say. And like, I knew I didn't need to freak out because I knew the agency was like letting me know they were communicating to me properly and they had already put everything together right away. But the new situation turned into, so I was living in Ohio at that time, and those parents lived in New Jersey. The plan had been that I would have the baby in Ohio. They would travel down for the birth, the baby would be born, they would get everything for the baby as far as birth certificate and everything, and then they would go back home. But because now they were getting divorced, their lawyer had to be involved. And when they were informed about the surrogacy process, they let them know that it would be in your best interest for your surrogate to give birth in New Jersey, because if she gives birth in Ohio, you guys are going to have to go do custody dealings in Ohio. And having to fly back and forth for all that, that doesn't sound pleasant at all. So luckily, the parents took care of everything. They flew me out to New Jersey for the last month of my pregnancy. They housed me up. They gave me a food allowance. They took very good care of me for that last 9 months that I was out there. So, again, that's another way you can kind of take it back to the good, that even if processes like that happen, things are in place to make sure that everyone is still safe and assured, and knowing that the outcome is still going to be the same. It's just going to kind of change up a little bit as far as what's going to happen for the remainder of the process. All right. The costs can be significant. That's very much a big one. It's costs a lot to make a baby, especially if you are doing it this kind of way. When it comes to involving the surrogate, you've got to pay the surrogate their own compensation for being involved at all. It's basically like a job. You're being employed for 10 months, so you get a monthly compensation for that. But you also have to provide your surrogate health insurance. You have to cover the medical costs for their hormone medications. You have to cover the medical costs for the pregnancy procedure. You have to pay the lawyer that's drawing up the contracts. You have to pay the agency because, again, they're being the middleman, so they're going to want their cut too. So if you do surrogacy, you just got to be prepared to spend a very, very pretty penny. And then surrogacy does require that you have to let go of some control. Now, when it comes to pregnancy, it's very passionate and known that people are going to think that, when they think about their pregnancy, there's a way that they want to go through it. There's a way they want things to happen for them and how they want things to go. And sadly, when you use a surrogate, that is not always going to be the case. Obviously, you've let go of control by employing someone else to carry your baby for you. But you have to understand that, they might not be able to give birth in the way you expect, whether it be medical reasons or something. You have to be open minded enough to say that even though I would personally want to do my birth and my pregnancy this way, you have to be willing to let your surrogate have some breather room because that might not be comfortable for them. It might not be physically possible for them. And it's just something you kind of have to be a little more open minded with. And I mean, lucky for me, every family I've worked with has been super open minded. And I mean, I've carried for a devout Sikh family, I've carried for a Chinese couple, and they were the ones from England actually. And I've carried for a diverse amount of people, and they were all very open minded to say, despite our culture, you do not have to abide by these practices that we would normally do. You are giving us a baby, you are giving us the greatest gift we could ever want. So we're happy to let you go through the pregnancy as you wish. Of course, just, be smart, be healthy, be good to the pregnancy, of course. So it just helps to be on the same page with everyone. And I've always advertised myself as if there is anything I could ever do in a pregnancy to make the family feel more comfortable, I'm always happy to do it. So even I have to let go of control sometimes and be like, well, I would handle the pregnancy this way, but if it would make the family more comfortable for me to handle it a certain way, I'd be happy to do it for them. So it's kind of like just coming together with the family, like the surrogate and the family, and kind of finding common ground to make sure that everybody goes through the process easy and that everybody's happy at the end of it. As long as everybody feels good, I feel like that makes the process even better for everybody. All right, so why do I participate in surrogacy? Well, the big reason I got into it is because when I first learned of what surrogacy was and that it was even possible to do, the first thing that came to my mind is that, so you're using your body to give the greatest gift you possibly could to someone that has been unsuccessful in achieving it on their own. That's how I looked at it when I decided to get into it. I mean, the core thing of how I got into it is that I had a friend who did it and she told me about her experience. I watched her go through it. She seemed, very accomplished at the end. It looked like she felt very rewarded in what she did. So I thought, if I'm capable of doing this, why shouldn't I? I'm blessed to have a very healthy reproductive system. I don't see children or a family like that in my future personally, but if I can use my body and what it was biologically intended to do to instead help somebody else who doesn't have that privilege, then I'm making such a difference in the world. And I'm so very happy to be able to do that. It's a great gift to be able to do. You get to experience a unique and beautiful relationship. I'm still in contact with every single family that I've carried for. They always update me on the babies. Some are different than others. Usually the standard is like birthday updates to say, hey, little one is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is what's going on in their life right now. But all those updates are so beautiful because I feel like, even though those are not my children, I still feel that spiritual connection to them because I gave them life. So getting to know how those babies are doing in life and seeing like what they're possibly going to accomplish in the world, it's very rewarding. It's almost indescribable, really. Like I've talked to people about this so much, and sometimes I'm at a loss for words. It's like I can't really explain it. I just wish I could like take my feelings out and let you see how this makes me feel, because it really is a wonderful thing that I've gotten to experience, and I really do feel blessed to have that. You get fair competitive compensation. Now, yeah, the money is a wonderful factor in surrogacy when you are the surrogate, because again, it's basically like, you've taken on a job and you're getting paid for it. And every agency is different. Not every agency will ever pay the same or cost the same. But I feel like I'm fortunate with the agency that I go through because they get me a fair wage every time. Like with the more experience I have, the more I become worth. So my very first surrogacy compared to my last one, which was my fourth, the pay is like more than double based on that, just from all the experience I've gotten. And it's been very helpful and rewarding to my life. Like my second surrogacy, I bought a brand new car with that. The third one, I had some wanderlust and I got to go travel some of the country and see some new cities and experience new parts of the world that I otherwise didn't get to. This very last one, I actually invested a lot of it into my drag, and I feel like my drag has taken off immensely because I put so much into it. Because for a lot of people, you know, drag's not cheap. Drag costs a lot. And if you really want to put like you can do great things in drag and not have a penny. That's not what drag is all about. You don't always need money. But like getting to really put yourself out there the way I have, I don't think I would have been able to do it had I not done that surrogacy. Like that surrogacy is the reason I got to go to San Francisco and do the summit last year. That surrogacy is the reason I've gotten to take my drag to so many other cities. It's the reason I've gotten to network and elevate myself to where I want to be working as hard as I have. So I am grateful for it in that sense. And again, you get to accomplish something that very few have. Surrogacy is not for everyone, and it's also not, the right word I guess would be, it's not able to be done by everyone. When you apply to be a surrogate, there are a lot of requirements involved. There's a lot involved with your health, both physically and mentally. There's both a lot involved with your ability to contribute as far as how you can make things happen in regards to working with the family and working with the agency. So, like when I first applied for a surrogate, I had to go through a phone conference and I had to tell them about myself. I had to tell them about my family background. I had to talk about what appealed to me about surrogacy, why I wanted to do it. Again, you have to go through those health screenings. They have to like look at your body from the inside out. They got to take a whole bunch of blood from you and see how everything's working on in there and everything. So not everybody can do it. And if you are able to do it, it's definitely very rewarding to be able to, like, what's the word? I don't want to say use myself, but like give myself, to be able to like make it so that something like this exists in the world and is able to help people the way it does. All right, surrogacy as a drag performer. This is my personal experience from the very last surrogacy I did and how it impacted my drag career. And I put the little disclaimer up there that, you know, again, this is my personal experience. A lot of people might look at this, like, look at these terms of like the time in pregnancy and say, well, I don't know anyone that went through that, or I know someone and they never went through it at that time. Pregnancy is different for everybody. No two pregnancies are the same. And the same can definitely be said for surrogate pregnancies. Like my first, second, third, fourth, none of them were exactly the same. They were all very much different from each other. One was a little bit tamer. Another, I went through a lot of health stuff. The third one, a little bit of ups and downs and bumps. Fourth one, again, so many different things about them all. So pregnancy will always be different for everyone, and it will always be different every time. So during my first trimester, I had to deal with staying on timely and consistent track with medications and doctor's appointments. During the first trimester of a surrogate pregnancy, it is very unique in the sense that you are still medication dependent until that embryo reaches a certain point in its development. It relies on the medication to keep it sustained because, again, it is not a pregnancy by natural conception. Because it was conceived artificially, you have to maintain it through medication until it reaches a certain point in the placental development that the placenta takes over and takes care of the baby for you. So again, for that first 3 months of the pregnancy, you are still taking medication. You still have to have routine doctor's appointments to make sure that your hormone levels are at a certain point so that nothing bad will happen to the pregnancy. So that was very much time consuming for me. And because of that, I had to schedule all my drag bookings accordingly. If I had to make sure that I was in town for my doctor's appointments, I couldn't do shows out of town for a little bit, or I had to reschedule shows and set them apart from the doctor's appointments because at that time, that pregnancy came first in my life. That was the priority for me. And then also there was a lot of temporary incapacitation due to pregnancy symptoms. Like one time, I believe it was in about 7th or 8th week of pregnancy, I'd actually just flown up to Portland. I had a booking up there and the show went great. Thankfully, did the show. I felt great. The performance was great. Everybody loved me. But the very next day, I got struck with really, really violent morning sickness. I was staying at my friend's house and I was literally hunched over her toilet for like half of the day because I could not keep anything down. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm so glad this didn't happen yesterday. That would have been horrible if it did. But I had to reschedule my flight home because it's like, I can't even get on a plane right now. I just want to lay here and just curl up in a ball. And so definitely incapacitates you in some ways, and you have to be prepared for that because it'll come out of nowhere. Like that, I did not expect to happen. And even in the other times I got sick in pregnancies, it just hit out of nowhere. I had no idea it was coming. During the second trimester, I had to be more hyper aware of my performance movements. Now, since my performance is very much burlesque inspired, you'll see a lot of twisting and turning, sometimes throwing your body down on the stage, stretching your legs and contorting yourself certain ways. I couldn't do that at that point anymore because the baby was growing a lot more. It was becoming more viable. It was presenting itself in words of my appearance. So I have to be more careful with my movements. And so I became very much more of a standing up and moving around performer. I still tried to give like some good choreography, body language, and all types of stuff. But the energy as far as like all the shablam moves and tossing yourself everywhere, that had to take a back seat. And then of course heavy lifting is a big no-no in pregnancy, so I was very limited to how much I could bring with me when it came to a lot of my drag performances. Like one performance I'm very well known for in the States, I have a baby coffin prop. And I'll bring it to like a lot of my alternative horror based shows. I've done a lot of really cool numbers with it like that. But that number had to go into hiatus for the rest of the pregnancy because I could not carry that. And I mean, yes, I could have had people to help me carry everything and all that, but it just felt like more work than it was. And again, I have to think about the pregnancy, and anything that's going to cost me energy and effort, I should probably just let it sit back until the end of the pregnancy, let it wait out a little bit. So again, it's trying to move things around and put the pregnancy before everything else. And then in the third trimester, that's when the pregnancy was very visible. In my experience, I've been very fortunate that I don't really show for the majority of my pregnancy. Like, honestly, when I did the very first surrogacy, I was working full time at my day job. They did not know I was pregnant. They called in and said, "Hey, my water broke. I'm not coming in tonight." Like, apparently, that's how well I hid it for so long. And I wasn't even purposely trying to hide it. Apparently, they just did not notice. So, but I feel like in drag, especially with a lot of the outfits and costumes I wear, it's very much visible on me. And like even when I came out to San Francisco, it was very visible on me because of like the costumes I presented myself in and everything. So all of my co-performers are aware of my condition. They are aware that I am pregnant. They know what my state is. They kind of know that, they're not going to expect all those shablam moves. They're not going to expect me to be acting crazy or, drinking or acting a fool or anything. So they are aware of my condition fully. And then when it comes to that appearance in the pregnancy, I can no longer wear corsets or cinchers, which are a staple in my drag. Like one thing about my drag appearance is that I'm almost pulling a Violet Chachki and I'm trying to give you that tiniest waist that I possibly can. But of course, being pregnant, I can't do that. So an element of my drag aesthetic and my drag looks are taken away for the majority of the pregnancy. And because I have this look that shows that I'm visibly pregnant, I started to make more drag numbers that were more storytelling. Instead of just giving you a look, I wanted to give you a story with it. Like when I came to the San Francisco summit, I knew with my pregnancy showing, I had to tell a story. And so the story that I told was almost kind of like I want to say it was kind of like demonic meets Mother Nature. Like a demonic Mother Nature is kind of the best way I can sum up what I did. Because my look, I wore this big demon horn wig. I had this blood-stained virginal white ethereal dress on, and I was kind of just walking around and like giving you all those magical movements. And I performed the song Here Comes the Sun, specifically the Ghost cover from the Beatles. And so I interpreted it to be like, here comes the sun, here comes the life coming into the world. And in a sense, it could be looked at, it's a nature aspect. It could be looked at as a very religious aspect, whether it be like left hand path with the aesthetic that I was presenting, or it could be like a traditional in the sense of like traditional Christian standards of here comes the sun. So I wanted to give something that told a story that could be interpreted in many different ways. Because that is actually one way I look at spirituality. No two spiritualities are the same. Everybody has their own unique sense of spirituality and everybody sees it differently. I don't believe there's a right or wrong way to worship or be spiritual. Everybody can be it in their own unique way, and whatever's right for you is right for you, and whatever's right for them is right for them. And so, again, with the looks being all storytelling and everything, that was a great time. And then my very last show was a Halloween show, which was 1 week right after the San Francisco summit. And I really got to have fun with that one. I literally brought out this concept number where it was a pregnant woman possessed by a demon. And because I had that belly, it was so great to give people that story. And a lot of people were thinking, oh, that's a great prosthetic. And then I lifted up and showed them, and I'm like, thanks. I made it myself. So yeah, again, like it was just a matter of not letting it hinder me, but me working with it. I didn't want to stop drag. I just worked my drag around it. So that's the basic summary of what I can say for that. And so then, of course, I want to say it was actually, yeah, 2 weeks after the San Francisco summit. That's when I had to go on hiatus because I entered the ninth month. And from the ninth month, people usually recommend that, you be on your toes at that point in a pregnancy because a baby could come at any point in time. And I've actually been pretty fortunate about 4 times now. I mean, all my babies have been full term. Specifically, they have all gone to about 39 weeks. I don't know if that's just my body, like saying I'm not carrying a baby any longer than this, but I've been fortunate that they've all been so timely like that. But of course, again, in surrogacy, you want to be comfortable and you want to keep the parents comfortable. So the parents requested that, I be ready to get off my feet and, take it easy by the ninth month. And I was like, of course, not a problem. So my very last show was a Halloween show. And then I stayed off my feet. I literally just sat in bed eating takeout food and watching TV. And, I went to all my doctor's appointments. And by 39 weeks, the baby had not been born. And the doctor was like, baby's still in there? Okay, come in. We're cutting you open and cutting him out. So, yeah, actually, so in 8 days, my surrogacy baby will be 1 year old. She was born on November 10th. So her birthday's coming up. So, yep. So yeah, I took that hiatus, and then the baby was born. And then, of course, because it was a cesarean section as well, I had to take the time off to let my body recover. Now, my very first surrogacy, that was a natural birth. So everything came out naturally for that. They just popped on out. I think I felt better within like 2 to 3 weeks, and I continued with my life as normal. But my second surrogacy was twins. And that automatically meant right away, you're having a C section to get them out. And then the following surrogacies, my OB said you could opt for VBAC or vaginal birth after cesarean, but it can be known to put more trauma. You C section. And I was like, I mean, that's fine by me. I'll continue C-section if that's the safer route. I never had a bad experience with a C-section, so I've been happy to continue them. So my second, third, and fourth surrogacies have been C-sections. But again, a C-section is a surgical procedure. Surgical procedures include healing time. So again, I had to be off my feet for a little bit longer. I think that was an additional 1 month that I took off to make sure that my scar was fully healed, because I know the only thing that ever scared me about a C-section was this news article I read about this woman who had one, and she was in the shower, like washing her hair something, and then her scar split open, and then she's like, I was just like, oh, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be gory. I should have said something. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like I have a history of work in the medical field, and I'm a last responder. I work in the death care field right now. So I'm so used to being unfiltered about body stuff, and I'm sorry, I should have had a trigger warning on that or something. But again, like I'm scared. Like I've only ever been scared about the possibility of bad things happening to my body if I'm neglectful of it. So of course, right away, it's like, I'm going to take off as much time as I feel like I need to, and whatever my doctor tells me I should, to make sure that I am fully healed and that I am fully recovered and that I can go back into my drag career with my completely recovered, rejuvenated best self. That's the way I looked at it. So that aspect might not be most appealing to some people if they think, well, I don't want to take all this time off, but it's like your body will thank you for it in the long run, and you'll feel good that you did. You just have to be patient about it in the long run. All right, the spiritual aspect of surrogate pregnancy. This is something I found online to basically sum this up in a general sense. Some studies have found that religious and spiritual beliefs are important to both the surrogates and the intended parents. I can vouch on that. I believe it is very important for me. And faith can be a factor in decision making, especially when it comes to the idea of presenting yourself to need a surrogate. And many religious people are changing their views on what is acceptable in their faith. Now, I'm not well knowledged on a lot of the rules of a lot of different religions, but I know that there are aspects of certain religions where surrogacy might not be permittable to them because it is outside of the natural sense of conception, or they might feel this is not something within the order of God or a higher power or what they intend for how the world should be created. So some people might not want to go that route, or they might not even be permitted to go that route by the word of their faith. But now a lot of religions and a lot of like subparts of religions, a lot of them are thankfully becoming a lot more open and progressive. And they're looking at it in the sense of having a family is more important than how the family is made. It shouldn't be looked at that way. However you come together, that shouldn't be looked at as the main factor. It's the fact that you want a family. It's the fact that you want to make a family and love a family and care for a family. That's what matters most of all. And I think that is a big factor that can be said about almost any religion. We all want to love, we want to be loved, and we want to have people to share that love with. And that should absolutely be looked at as the key factor when it comes to something, especially in the terms of creating a family like this. My spiritual journey through my surrogacies. So, if I was going to put any kind of label on my spirituality, I would say mine is very much based on the aspects of nature and the aspects of karma. I believe that we are meant to do good and give good into the world that we live on. You know, this world exists and helps us to exist. So therefore, we need to give back to it by giving our best selves and giving the best that we can to it. And then I also believe very much in karma by the aspect that if you do good, you're going to receive good. And if you do bad, you're going to receive bad. That's absolutely how I have felt the most comfortable living my life. And that's how I've put myself out there and how I make a difference in the world. And I believe that by participating in surrogacy, that it has enhanced my spirituality further with the beliefs I have. And I feel like my life has been greatly rewarded as a result. Because I am doing such a good and selfless deed in this way, I believe the world is going to continuously give back good to me. I believe that I have been rewarded in the aspects of my own spiritual development. I believe that I have been rewarded in the aspects of my mental and emotional developments. I believe I've been rewarded in a lot of the wonderful opportunities in my life because of it. By having another family put such a strong level of trust in me, I feel like I'm given the opportunity to show what I'm capable of giving to the world and showing people what a good person I am. Now, not to say that, you have to go out there and do good just so people will think that you're a good person. That's not what this is about at all. But I feel like it's very rewarding when people see that good in you and they know what a good person you are and what you're trying to do with your life. I feel like that is also very rewarding in a sense, and it can create some sort of peace in your life a little bit as well. That's how I've personally looked at it. And then by doing right for the families and the babies, again, the world is going to do good for me in return. When I have respect for these families that are putting their faith and their trust in me, and then I'm doing everything that is expected of me and that is right of me to make sure that the baby I'm carrying stays healthy and they are born healthy, that's me giving back in the best way to life and creating life in the best way. And again, I shall be justly rewarded for it. I believe in making a difference in the world through the actions I take in my life. So, again, the fact that I am using my healthy body that I'm not using in a traditional sense to instead help someone else, I'm doing a great deed in the world and I'm helping people in a way that they might not be able to ever access had I not been there to help them in the first place. Like with the second family I cared for, the mother suffered, I don't really remember all the details she told me, but basically it was a really bad case of endometriosis that she had. And like for a while, they were trying to personally do IVF, where they were doing like the insemination procedure of a surrogacy, but she was trying to get pregnant that way so that she could carry their baby. But I think she went through like 5 or 6 miscarriages. She was so determined. Like she last resort. But after that, like fifth or sixth miscarriage, and she did not want to keep putting herself through that pain, that's when they contacted me, and I was like, say less. If you want me, I am here. I am honored to be your surrogate. So, having people willing to be that vulnerable and come to me and place their trust in me like that, that shows that, the energy that I have gathered and put out there, that must be saying something about me to them. Because again, this isn't just about them coming to me and saying, okay, you're hired, you're going to that couple. No, I have to talk to this couple. I have to be able to show them why I should be their surrogate, why they should choose me. And I fully believe the fact that I have been such a good person in this endeavor and that I have put such good energy out and that I have done things the way I have done. I think they can sense that when they're getting to know me, and that's ultimately why they choose me. So this has been just a never-ending cycle of reward for me when it comes to me giving and me receiving all the good that I have done and received through this kind of procedure. All right, and so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. Um, Thank you. I'm open for questions. If anybody has any, I will answer them to the best of my ability. I've also included some of my basic information. If you want to follow me on social media, if you want to support me, I have my Venmo and Cash App. I have my merch shop. I've even bought some of my merch back here that's up for grabs. So, yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
thanks for sharing your story. I was a little bit late, so I don't know if you covered this at the very beginning, but just wanted to so my husband and I have a 6-year-old daughter through surrogacy. And so I know quite a bit about the process here in Canada. And I'm just not sure if you know or any folks here know, but in Canada, you can't actually be paid to be a surrogate.
Oh, yeah.
So it's an altruistic thing that is done. So I'm curious. I mean, so we had to, you of course like pay to cover certain medical needs or if they have to be off work or whatever, but
Yeah.
you can't actually, it's against the law to pay somebody to be a surrogate here.
Okay.
So curiously, I wondered if that was the case, would you still be inclined to be a surrogate if you weren't getting paid for it?
Honestly, yes, because like I did touch on it very briefly to be like, the compensation is very nice. It's a very great bonus, but it should never be the only reason you're doing it. And like even the agency I went through, they very much even preached it to me. Like you should be wanting to do this even without the aspect of that kind of financial compensation because honestly, what your body goes through is worth so much more than any amount of money could pay. You are impacting yourself so much physically, emotionally, mentally that it's you can't just put a dollar price on it because it will never match what you go through, especially because again pregnancy being so different. The second surrogacy where I carried twins, I felt so incapacitated throughout that whole thing, and I hadn't done drag yet. Specifically, like the fourth surrogacy I did, that was when it first impacted my drag because I was already doing drag at that time. But no, I was just a normal person, just living my normal life during the second surrogacy. But I had violent morning sickness for like 2 months. I had to go to the hospital a few times because I couldn't even keep water down. There was a point where I had such bad heartburn that I could barely sleep at night because I kept having to get up in the middle of the night and like spit in a cup because I couldn't, it was so bad. And then by the third month, oh my God, my back hurt so bad. Like the babies were 11 pounds total when they were born. So that was a lot of baby to carry. And like 10 minutes? Okay. So, yeah. So, I went through so much, and the amount of money I made can't really even be worth that. But, I did it because I helped that family. And again, that was the mother that was so vulnerable and so stubborn with wanting a surrogate that I was happy to be able to help her. So I would absolutely do it regardless of a compensation aspect. Anybody else? No. Oh,
Do you have any plans in your future to be a surrogate again?
I do. I believe based on my agency, like again, all agencies are different. I believe mine will let you do up to 5 or 6 surrogacies just because, they want to cap you at some point because your body can only go through so much. You don't want to be looked at as like, a breeding thing or something like that. But so I've done 4 now. So I'd have to reconfirm with my agency, but I do believe I get 1 minimum or 2 max left. And I'm absolutely going to do it because, I've come this far. Why should I stop when I still have the opportunity to help more families to the most of my ability? When I stop, I want it to be because I've been told you can't do it anymore. It's not physically possible for you to do it anymore. I want to help each and every person I can to the absolute capability that I'm able to reach.
Hi, Susan.
Hi.
I'm just trying to like hone in on my question, and it's your comfort to answer if you choose to. Past, present, your relationship with tattoos, your relationship with social drinking, your relationship with any recreational, your relationship with um, donating blood, or any of these things. How did embarking on surrogacy change, evolve your relationship with some of the list of things I'm kind of just throwing out that kind of go through my mind, that if you have a relationship with, like previously before starting today in the coffee room, I was like, something I want to challenge myself over the next year is to get over myself and having no issue to donate blood. I want to donate blood. I'm just terrified. And
Right.
it's like, maybe post surrogacy, do you have tattoos you want, knowing you can't get tattoos all the time during pregnancy? Is there a tattoo you're thinking of? Is there something like me sharing about a year from now I want to be giving and donating in my own way? Do you have dreams or hopes or things you want to return to or you want to do? Or, it's kind of an open question, but just
Yeah. So
answer it
like
how you feel.
Yeah. So like in regards to that first point you mentioned, like relationships with like recreational things that are not permitted when you are pregnant. I mean, I don't feel like I'm very dependent on things like that in that sense. So it's very easy for me to say, like, my body is in a state where I cannot do that. And I have to wait till this is over and then I can do it. I mean, during some of my surrogacies, like, I've planned tattoos. Like, a lot of the tattoos I have were immediately after surrogacies, where it's like, oh my God, I can't wait to get this done. I'm so antsy for it. But, you know, I've just looked down and remember, hey, there's a life growing inside of me. It is very dependent on the way I carry myself for how it comes into this world. So I cannot do anything that is going to cause harm to this life. I personally would never, ever forgive myself if I knowingly went out there and did something that I knew was going to endanger the life that was being entrusted in me to carry. I would never have forgiven myself. So I mean, the best way to look at it is, you know, just be patient. It's worth it. It's not forever. It feels like it's forever. You know, women who have gone through this, they're going to say, oh my God, I feel like I've been pregnant forever. It very much, it ends. It very much ends. You know, it actually comes a lot quicker than you think. You know, sometimes I've sat there and been like, oh my God, I've been 7 months for forever. I've been 8 months for forever. But then when I am on that bed or on that table and then that baby has come out of me and the parents are holding their baby, I'm like, wow, this went by a lot quicker than I thought it did. So, yeah, you know, just be patient. You know, the day will come. And, you know, when it does, it honestly feels like a reward. Like right after the baby was born, like in this last one, I hung out long enough with the parents that they took me out to a sushi dinner. You bet the first thing I got was raw fish. Enjoyed that. And then when I came back home to Vegas, my friend picked me up from the airport and we went to Olive Garden and I ordered a pitcher of watermelon Moscato sangria. And I was like, cheers to me for doing what I did. So look at it as a reward. You know, you did all of that. You did all of that for this family. They are happy because of you. They feel complete because of you. Reward yourself. That's how I look at it.
Hi, my name is Callie. I'm from Idaho. Idaho is not one of the states in the U.S. that, has yet considered banning IVF, but there are a few, as you know, that have. I guess I just was curious about your opinion on that. I think obviously you're probably against it, but can you kind of expand on, you know, your reaction to those laws going into effect and affecting the families that need that?
Yeah, as far as all this restriction talk from these people that want to restrict these things, I am absolutely very much against it. I am against everything that talks about restricting women's bodies, that is talking about restricting anybody's bodies of anything, that is trying to dictate how people are living, dictating how people are presenting themselves. And I think it's honestly really cruel and heartless to want to try to bring IVF into that, because like I'm not trying to like group everyone. I just kind of feel like the majority that I hear talking about being so passionate for a ban about it, they say they're about family values and they're about children, and it's like, well, why are you trying to take that option away from people when that's their only option to have a family? You know, you need to make it make sense. But, you know, I'm trying to have faith that that's not going to happen. Again, I've been talking, I voted early. I hope everyone else has gotten their vote in the States. And, you know, I hope that the outcome we have is something that is going to make our country feel like it is still safe for us, and that we can continue to be our true, authentic selves, that we can love one another and we can come together and people can have their lives by their means and not by ways that other people are trying to dictate and make the norm that is not meant to be the norm for everybody.
Such a cliche thing to say, but post surrogacy, have you thought about considering municipal, state, or national political platforming? You have an incredible presence, a great way of delivering, and I think, and just a recommendation, maybe it's something to consider.
I mean, I've definitely never thought about that because, like, one thing I've considered about myself, like, I remember when I was a little kid, I think I was like 9 or 10 years old, I thought, oh, I think I want to be a lawyer when I grow up because, you know, it's a big position and you make a lot of money. But then I get older and I'm like, I cry when I get into arguments with people. I don't think I'd like, honestly, if you put me on a debate stage and I'm talking and someone's coming back at me, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, well, you. And then you're gonna see like tears watering in my eyes, and I'm just like, I think I'm way too emotional to be that kind of person. Like, as far as advocating, I'm always happy to advocate. I stand strong on my beliefs and I support everybody in my communities. I will support everybody in my stances and present them. But as far as being like a spokesperson or going out there and being the like defender, I guess, like I don't feel like I have the strength or the backbone necessarily. Like there are so like I know so many drag and non-drag performers that speak with a fire in their voice and they are not afraid to tell it like it is, and they will go up there and they will just light a fire under everyone's asses, and I respect and admire them so much, and I believe those are the people that are really truly great representations of the community and great representations of the beliefs and the prospects that I believe are very beneficial for this world and for like the United States and everything. So definitely supportive of those types of people going up there and going to bat for all of us. I'll stand in the background and be like the little cheerleader going, yay, yay, yay.
Any closing words?
Well, as far as my presentation goes, I hope I was able to learn everybody a new thing or two, or at least expand on something that you already may know. I appreciate you taking the time to learn a little about me and listen to what I have to say. I know I'm probably not the most well-spoken or put-together performer, but I hope that you at least enjoyed your time with me. I thank you for being here, and the Drag Spirituality and Summit thanks you for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend with us.
Do you want a mic?
Oh yeah. I'm just so used to yelling.
Thank you. Wow, can we give one more round of applause for Susan, please? Oh my God. I have to admit, I was in San Francisco for that like spooky demonic Mother Nature thing, and I remember weeping by the end of it. So it was just so delightful to have you here, Susan. Honestly, I'm so in my feelings again. Okay, you know, I'm also one of those emotional people who just cry all the time. So that's where I'm at right now. It's lunchtime. Yay, food.